Hello everyone, welcome to another interesting and informative session of the Analyst brought to you by Vajiram and Ravi. In today's session, we will discuss 9 important articles as featured in the Hindu and Indian Express for your comprehensive understanding of the current affairs. The first 3 topics are very relevant for your upcoming mains examination 2024, and we also provide you with the opportunity to attempt questions on the current issues. The topics are as follows. In the first topic, we'll try to understand the rationale behind the reforms in the Central Planning Agency, that is NITI Aayog. Then in the second topic, we will learn about what is the idea of quota for locals in light of the recent bill passed by the Karnataka government. Then in the third topic, we will learn about the emerging concept of neuroethics. Towards the fourth topic, we will learn what is the insolvency process under the IBC 2016, and we will also learn about the body, that is National Company Law Tribunal. Finally, in the fifth topic, we will try to understand the salient aspects of the National Quantum Mission. Towards the end, there will be prelims snippets which can also help you in the prelims examination as well, so stay tuned. The central government on 16th of July reconstituted the NITI Aayog by increasing the number of special invitees from 5 to 11. Keep this in mind that the chairperson of NITI Aayog will continue to be the Prime Minister of the country, and the economist Suman K. Beri will continue to be the Vice Chairperson of NITI Aayog. However, such reforms in NITI Aayog has been long overdue. NITI Aayog being an important institution and upholding the spirit of cooperative federalism, both of which forms an important component of your GS paper 2. Now, first let's try to understand that when we are talking about the Central Planning Agency of the country, which is the National Institute for Transforming India NITI Aayog, which came into its function from 2015 onwards, what was the planning commission which used to exist before NITI Aayog, and what is this idea or the concept of a planned economy? So the concept of planned economy actually arose with the rise of socialism in the erstwhile USSR, when the first 5-year plan was actually released by Stalin from the year of 1928 to 32, which actually helped Russia to become an industrialized nation even in the backdrop of the economic depression which was taking place from the year of 1929 to 32. The idea was that the state government or the national government is actually going to intervene in the economy and thus violating the free economy or the free market policy which exists. The government is going to control certain important sectors, certain important industries. Either it can monopolize them, and it can also regulate the laborers through various labor laws which is going to regulate. The example of which you can actually see here as well. So this idea of such a planned economy, it actually inspires the young nationalist leaders of that time, such as Subhash Chandra Bose and Jawaharlal Nehru as well. And that is why when the Subhash Chandra Bose was actually the chairman of Indian National Congress, under his chairmanship, National Planning Committee was created, and who was made the chairman of this National Planning Committee? That was Jawaharlal Nehru himself. Then, through Bombay Plan of 1944, various industrialists, for example, J.R.D. Tata or J.D. Birla, all of these industries actually ask for the state intervention in the market economy, because there were certain such deprived sectors in our economy which actually required the consistent effort and support by the government. Thus, the Planning Commission was created in the year of 1950 under the presidency of our first Prime Minister, who was Jawaharlal Nehru. Now, when we have understood the backdrop of the creation of Planning Commission, let's have a brief overlook over the various 5-year plans which were actually devised by this Planning Commission over the years. This section is actually much more relevant for your prelims examination point of view. Now, there were various planning commissions. It formed various 5-year plans. The first 5-year plan actually put impetus on issues such as agriculture, irrigation and power projects, because we were trying to industrialize ourselves on the line of China. This was your basically Harrod and Domar model. The second was another impetus on the industrial development, which was actually based upon the Mahalanobis model. So if you look at here that from the second 5-year plan, there was a determined thrust towards substitution of basic and capital good industry, we can say that this statement is correct. Then the third 5-year plan, it actually put impetus on what? To make our country self-reliant. So this idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat, which you see now, it was also resounding back then from 1961 to 66 as well. But then we actually realized our shortcomings in the agriculture sector, because we were actually importing food grains from other countries such as USA, for example the PL 480 grains, and we were dependent on other countries for our food security. Thus we had to drop this impetus on industrialization and self-reliance, and we started moving towards the agriculture sector's growth. Thus led to the idea of green revolution and your nationalization of bank. So from now we see a major rise of socialism in our country from your fourth 5-year plan onwards. So there was growth with stability and progress towards self-reliance in the fourth one. The fifth one, under the Indira Gandhi government, it actually put impetus on removal of poverty, Garibi Hatao. Then from the 6th-year plan, there was a strengthening of infrastructure for both agriculture and industry. As we can see that the fifth one is actually putting impetus on poverty, the financial sector was included from the first 5-year plan itself. We can just remove the third statement here and we can reach to the correct answer. The 7th 5-year plan put the target for rapid growth in food grain production and increased employment opportunities. Then for the first time, inclusive growth was included in the 11th 5-year plan, and the sustainable growth idea was included in the last 12th 5-year plan. But then the Planning Commission, it was actually disbanded and NITI Aayog was created with an executive resolution from 2015. What is the major difference between these two? First, they share a similarity. Remember that both Planning Commission and NITI Aayog was created through an executive resolution, which basically means that they are neither a constitutional nor a statutory body. They have been neither created by any amendment nor have been created by any act which was passed by the government. Then the similarities end here and the major differences starts. So the Planning Commission had a very limited role for the states which used to exist. The reason being that this Planning Commission devised these 5-year plans. It actually devised that the amount of funds which various states will get. It also directed the state that on which particular schemes and issues the state shall actually utilize these funds. And the funds were actually driven through performance basis, or many a time on the basis that whose government has been formed in that particular state. And because of all of this reason, there was a major top to bottom approach. However, with the neoliberalization which took place, especially after 1991, the role of the state in the overall democratic as well as economic structure actually enhanced. That actually made the Planning Commission completely irrelevant and obsolete, and thus there was a need of cooperative federalism, the idea of which is propounded by the NITI Aayog. So how NITI Aayog actually stands for the idea of cooperative federalism? So for example, there is a Team India. Team India of NITI Aayog is basically the governing council of NITI Aayog. And it consists of what? It consists of Chief Minister of each and every state and the Lieutenant Governors of all the other union territories. So basically it provides for the governance mechanism by the NITI Aayog through the active participation of the state. Then the Planning Commission, the secretaries, they were actually appointed on the basis of collusive ideology, that who is actually going to beat on the line of the government. However, in the present NITI Aayog, these secretaries are appointed as the chief executive officer. So they have certain tasks to perform, and their promotion and appointment is based upon the performance which they are being delivered to. Then the Planning Commission has actually much more of financial teeth, because it had power to allocate funds to ministries and state governments. But remember that NITI Aayog just acts as a complete think tank and it does not have any financial powers. Now this NITI Aayog, it actually works on the 7 pillars of effective governance, being the pro-people, the pro-activity, the active participation of citizens, the empowerment of the downtrodden and their inclusion, the equality of the opportunity for youth, and the transparency of the government's policies by making them visible and responsive to the need of the government. Thus, the NITI Aayog has actually ensured that it has significantly contributed in the various spheres, which has also been highlighted in various articles recently. The first of it is that it actually acts as the funnel of the innovative idea, where this NITI Aayog, it actually provides for the ideas which are being driven from the various stakeholders such as your industry, your academia, your civil society, as well as your foreign specialists and other think tanks around the world, such as for example World Economic Forum, and it provides the channel of these innovative ideas to flow and reach to the central and state governments. So it actually ensures that the inertia which can actually take place in policy making of the government, that doesn't occur. Because many a time, see, what happens is that if I am sitting, let's say, at a very high position of power in Delhi, many a times I can actually become unreflective of the ground reality. I cannot understand the problems of the farmers who are facing the water distress in the Marathwada region of Maharashtra. So for that purpose, this NITI Aayog has created various ground level channels, and it provides as a funnel for these innovative ideas to reach to the government. The second is that it actually provides for convergence of ministries on various interconnected issues. Let's take any issue, let's say for example the poverty. Now remember that as per the United Nations Development Programme's report of 2023, there exist more than 23 crore plus multi-dimensionally poor people in our country. Now obviously this poverty does not exist for one particular reason. For example, you cannot just say that okay, there is a vicious cycle of poverty because certain people were poor, they had less skill accumulation, they are not eligible for large number of jobs. Thus this poverty transforms from one generation to another. But there can be other reasons as well. For example, the emerging reason of climate change can be there. What if you are living in the coastal district, which is actually being impacted by the emerging cyclones in that region? So that can lead to your frequent rehabilitation, resettlement. So because of that reason also you can remain poor. So because there are so many factors to deal with this one particular issue, the convergence of various ministries are required. For example, let's say there is a requirement of direct benefit transfer. So we are providing that under PM Kisan Samman Nidhi. Then we need to provide skilling to youth to increase their employment opportunities. For that purpose, we have PM Kaushal Vikas Yojana. Or let's say for example, we need to put impetus on our local industries. A new Swadeshi movement shall be brought, and for that purpose we have got production linked incentive scheme. So it provides for convergence of ministries on interconnected issues such as poverty. The next is that it actually ensures the greater level of accountability through what? Through Development Monitoring and Evaluation Office, which basically provides for the real-time analysis of the performance of not only various ministries but also state government. And then we can actually use these data for better policy making. Also, it is not only exist for the cooperative federalism, but it also promotes competitive federalism among the state. We can just take the recent example of Sustainable Development Goal India Index of 2024, which has been released recently and was discussed in the Analyst as well. So in that, let's say if Kerala has come as a top state and Bihar has come the worst performing state in the terms of Sustainable Development Goals on the basis of various indicators. So it is obvious that it actually creates a kind of a competition among them to actually improve. And their improvement in this regard can actually benefit the nation as whole. The next is that it actually acts as the state's representative in Delhi, where it ensures that any ground level idea, which is groundbreaking, which is actually performing really well, that shall also be channelized by the central government as well to reach to the larger public across the country. For example, the direct benefit transfer idea of Kisan Samman Nidhi, which we were discussing, that was first actually envisaged as Raitu Bandhu scheme of Telangana. And then it was devised as Kisan Samman Nidhi for the benefit of all the farmers in our country. So thus, there are several initiatives which has been taken by NITI Aayog, which you guys should also remember for your prelims examination. For example, it releases the Composite Water Management Index. Remember Atal Innovation Mission. Then there is a SATH project, which actually stands for the Sustainable Action Towards Human Education project. So what we are trying here, we are actually trying to improve the education level in the tribal areas under SATH project. We are also promoting women empowerment through Women Transforming India Awards. We are promoting good governance through Good Governance Index. Then NITI Aayog promotes the use of electrical vehicle by launching a portal which provides for various kind of information related to electrical vehicle in our country, that is called as E-Amrit portal. And there is also methanol economy program as well. However, despite such noble initiative, there exist several issues, the first of which is the vertical imbalance. So for example, even there is a cooperative federalism structure which has been devised through NITI Aayog. But even after that, if there are, let's say there is taking place the delays in the GST compensation which was guaranteed to the state, then it is obvious that the NITI Aayog's functioning can be questioned, because it is not being able to just decrease the dispute which already exists between the center and state, which form the major part of the vertical imbalances. The second is the increasing number of items in the concurrent list. So for example, you guys can remember about the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976, under which various major provisions which earlier used to be with the state, such as your education or administration of justice, all of this was actually transferred in the concurrent list. You guys might hear about the demands of Tamil Nadu Chief Minister very recently. He is asking to change the education from the concurrent list to the state list. So because such items has been actually transferred to the concurrent list, NITI Aayog has got more say on these particular issues, and thus it actually undermines the idea of cooperative federalism. Then there exists the horizontal imbalances. Horizontal imbalances is basically the difference which exists between one state versus another because of the level of development which they have achieved. And among these horizontal imbalances, there are two types which we can see. The first is that the states which has inadequate provision of basic public goods and services. So for example, if we look at the multi-dimensional poverty index of 2023, there is an overall average of 14% multi-dimensional poverty ratio among the 100 people. In the state of Bihar, that is 33%. In the state of Uttar Pradesh, that is 22. In the state of Madhya Pradesh, that is 20. In comparison to that, if you look at the southern states such as Andhra, Karnataka, just look at Kerala. In Kerala, the population of multidimensionally poor people is only 0.5% of the Kerala's total population. So there exists such large imbalances between the states which has even the inadequate provision of basic public goods and services. So it is obvious that if I am NITI Aayog and I am providing equal kind of level playing field to both Kerala and Bihar, then that is quite not good for the state of Bihar. It is quite discriminatory actually. The second is that there are certain states which are deprived of large-scale infrastructure and capital. For example, the state of Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, the hilly region, your northeastern region in the whole. So these states also required special assistance from NITI Aayog. Other issue is that actually NITI Aayog is being termed as a toothless tiger. Because as we discussed earlier, NITI Aayog does not have any financial power. It cannot provide any grant or any special funding to any such state which are facing such horizontal imbalances. On the other hand, what used to happen with the Planning Commission, that it used to provide grants or certain concessional provision or assistance to the states on the basis of Gadgil-Mukherjee formula. What was Gadgil-Mukherjee formula? The Gadgil-Mukherjee formula basically said that there are certain states who might be a hilly state, a low density of population or economic backwardness. So these states used to get certain special benefits, for example 30% of the total central assistance, accelerated irrigation benefit program, or central incentives for the promotion of industry. However, as you guys can see that by the year of the formation of NITI Aayog, after that there has been discontinuation of such central assistance. The allocation under AIBP has reduced. Very few externally aided projects are being guaranteed. At the same time, there is no financial tooth which has been provided to NITI Aayog as well. So basically it has remained as what? A toothless tiger. Then various one nation narratives such as one nation, one market or one nation, one election, it actually undermines the spirit of federalism for which Niti Aayog actually stands for. At the same time, several experts has been critical of the declining intellectual distance which Niti Aayog shall maintain from the government. Because your job is what? Your job is to analyze the policies of the government, try to identify the various shortcomings which exist and then suggest reforms for that. But over the years, it has actually, Niti Aayog has transformed into a platform for the government to advertise its various initiatives. So thus, there is a declining intellectual distance. And obviously, Niti Aayog plays a very weak role in influencing the private and the public investment because it is just a think tank. Like Finance Commission, it does not have kind of an authority power. So various article has actually suggested for various revamping measure for Niti Aayog 2.0. The first of that is to follow the Tinberg assignment principle, where Niti Aayog shall start allocating funds to the state on allocative basis, on the basis of not only their performance but also the issues which they are facing. And then there shall be creation of certain special funds for those states who are just lagging behind. Now, the idea is that Niti Aayog shall be provided with certain financial resources. So let's say 1 to 2% of GDP shall be allocated to Niti Aayog so that it can provide for certain special funds to the logging states like Bihar, UP, northeastern states, etc. And then it shall be created an independent evaluation office under which we shall start evaluating each and every project of the central as well as the state governments. There shall be a transparent mechanism through which this evaluation shall be also showed to the public, and thus Niti Aayog shall be included in the formation of zero budget based policy making. So the schemes which are not working, they shall be rectified. The schemes which are working shall be promoted. For that, we can create this IEA. The next is that we can actually amend the Article 266, 268 and Article 243H, and thus we can create an urban local body and Panchayati Consolidated Fund of India. So we shall have certain dedicated funds toward the development at the grassroots level, at the third tier level government, and they shall not be dependent upon the resources from the state governments or rely on the finance commission that how much devolution shall be given to the third tier government. Finally, there will be decentralization of planning but under the planned framework. So even though all the issues which arose with the planning commission, there was one benefit that after 5 to 6 years you can actually analyze that the target has been achieved or not. But with Niti Aayog, there is no planned framework. You cannot just devise that whether the Niti Aayog's targets are being completed or not. So these are the innovative suggestions. Does India needs a planning that addresses the social justice? We need to reduce the regional as well as gender inequalities, and we need to ensure the environment sustainability. On the basis of this, try to solve this mains question. Try to write it down, and you can also comment about this prelims question answer. We move forward to the next news. The Karnataka cabinet has cleared the bill which is mandating the industries to appoint local candidates at various positions, highlighting the issue of regionalism, which forms an important component of your GS2 paper under the various issues related to development and what are the government policies and interventions regarding that. Now let's try to first understand what does this Karnataka bill actually say. The Karnataka bill says that various industries, factories and other establishments shall provide for a reservation of 50% of the management position and 75% in the non-management position for a local candidate. So the next question which might be coming in your mind is that who is this local candidate? So according to the bill, a local candidate is basically a person who was either born in the state of Karnataka or who has been a domicile or living in the state of Karnataka from the last 15 years, by the virtue of which he can adequately speak and write Kannada language proficiently, for which the government is also going to conduct a test. Now let's say that I am a company and I adhere to the law which has been being framed by the Karnataka government. But what if there is not enough qualified local candidate? Then what shall I do? So as per the provision of the bill, these industries, they shall actually work in collaboration with the state government, and they shall try to provide skilling to such local candidate within the time span of 3 years. So this is the whole idea of the bill. Now, why such bills are being propagated? What is this rationale behind the reservation? So does our constitution provide for something? Well, Article 16 of the Constitution, it says that there shall be equality of opportunity to all the citizens in the matter of public employment. However, as it was remarked by the father of our Constitution, B.R. Ambedkar, he said that if there exist two unequal people, and if we are treating these two unequal people equally, then that basically leads to the violation of right to equality under Article 14 of the Constitution. And from this very concept itself, the idea of reservation was born, which basically provides that these downtrodden people shall be uplifted through affirmative action by the state to bring them on equal footing with this well-to-do section. It also follows the directive which has been laid under the DPSP of the Constitution under Article 46, which basically says what? That there shall be adequate economic and educational safeguard which shall be provided to ensure the interest of the weaker section. Thus, following these DPSP and this idea of equality which was propagated by B.R. Ambedkar, Article 15 Clause 4 and Article 16 Clause 4 actually provides for reservation. Reservation to the unprivileged section of the society. For what? For their upliftment. So, yes, there exists an idea of reservation in the Constitution. However, we need to understand that there has been increasing demand for local reservation in the recent years. And that has actually been caused because of the rising unemployment and increasing inequality in the world. As you guys can see from the table here itself, just look at the numbers of Haryana and Rajasthan. Up to 30% of their population under the working age, which is basically 15 to 59 years, is actually unemployed. That is almost 1 out of the 3 people. Now just try to imagine yourself as Mukesh Ambani, living in that mighty tower of Antilla. Will you even be worried about who are your neighbors? Absolutely not. You don't care who are your neighbors, which language they speak, which region they come from, because you are just surrounded with all the wealth in the world. But now imagine yourself as a poor household. You are just struggling to even meet the basic needs, for example, to have 2 meals a day. Suddenly, you see that a neighbor has come from some other state or some other region. Now, because the resources are limited, the population is increasing, there is new entrant in this particular struggle which was taking place. So, obviously, as the resources was limited, it will actually now lead to more division of resources. So, now suddenly you will start getting worried about this person's ethnicity, the language this person speaks, from which religion they come from. And the idea, the basic foundation of all this issue is what? Your rising unemployment level, the rising poverty in the country. Now, these people who are falling in this category of 15 to 59 years of age bracket, they also might be going to vote. So, obviously, they form the major vote share of the parties which comes in power. So obviously these parties, because they are elected by these people, they have to be reflective of their demand. And these people are demanding for what? They are saying that no, give us reservation on the basis of our birth, of our birthplace. So obviously that these state governments will respond to their demands, and so they have done, because you can see that so many governments has actually either passing the bill related to the domicile reservation or such bills are under consideration. Thus, are there any arguments in the favor for this quota of local? There are some arguments. First argument is that such reservation at local level will actually empower the local youth by providing them what? By providing them employment opportunity. Their financial inclusion will actually increase. They will actually get the decent work right. So because of all this, their right to life under Article 21 will actually improve. The second is that it can actually solve the problem of huge outward migration which take place. So to understand that, just look at this particular map here. Just look at the number of the sources, the source states from where actually most of the blue collar migrants just move outwards, such as Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Assam, your region of here, the tribal belt. Now from here, the people are going to which particular area? They are going to Gurgaon, Delhi, they are going to Hyderabad, they are going to Chennai, 40% of them are going to Bangalore, 6% to Bombay. The reason is what? The reason is various push factor, one of them being that these regions are actually under deprived of any kind of industrial development. They don't have employment opportunities there. They don't have good education infrastructure. So now because of all of these issues, they are migrating to these mega cities, and that is ultimately leading to what? The overcrowding of tier 1 and tier 2 cities, ultimately leading to the issue of urban slums. So for example, as per NITI Aayog, almost 20% of our current population live urban slums. In our country, where in the very same city which has the richest persons of India's home, the same city also has the biggest slum in Asia, that is Dharavi. The next is that such local reservation can actually provide to act as an alternative source to the public jobs, because there is such a huge saturation level in the public jobs. Even if tomorrow the government will release a job for peon, there will be at least more than 1 lakh applicants. The reason for that is what? The reason for that is poverty of aspiration, as it was pointed out by the chief economic advisor, that is Sanjeev Sanyal, where these youths are actually wasting years of their formative years of their life just sitting in cubicles, mugging up for hours. The reason for that is they want a secure job in the form of some government job. There are two reasons for that. The first is the dearth of opportunity in the private sector. Because let's say if I open a company, obviously as a private company, my first motive will be what? To make profit. So to make profit, will I be looking at more job creation, or will I be looking at how I can exploit the lesser number of the employees? For example, very recently, the Infosys chairman was saying that there shall be a 12-hour working day or 7 days a working week, right? So that shall be my idea, to make the profit, rather than creating a lot of jobs and giving salaries to a lot of people. The second is the selective discrimination policy which is followed by various industries. Why? They just actually do not want to hire the local people, and there is a reason for that. Because let's say if all of us are coming from one particular local area, that can actually lead to the unionization of locals, where we can actually start raising certain demands to the company. We can actually start creating like political pressure on the company to adhere to our demands. But what if one person is from Tamil Nadu, one is from Kerala, one is from Bihar, one is from Delhi? No one is localized there. No such pressure at all. The next is that it can actually boost the state GDP. Because first of all, it will actually reduce the dependency on the migrant. For example, if you look at the industries in Tamil Nadu, such as manufacturing sector, garment, spinning mills, construction, they actually hugely dependent on the migrants which comes to the state of Tamil Nadu, the migrants from the state of Bihar, Odisha, UP, etc. And if certain issue will arise, for example, recently there was an issue, kind of a tussle between Tamil Nadu workers and the workers from the North India. So that can actually lead to the kind of, the abruption in the working of the company. It can also reduce the absenteeism. Then it can actually address the disguised labor issue in the agriculture sector by providing them a decent work in some other industries, right? So that can actually improve the condition of agriculture sector as well. The next is that, is it in the line with the global best practices? Absolutely. Such local reservation is actually provided in the state of US and Canada. In US under Civil Rights Act of 1964, and in Canada under the Employment Equity Act. However, there are certain arguments against as well we shall actually be looking upon. The first is that try to understand that these parties are actually working or catering to the need of their vote bank, where they are actually focusing upon the short-term gains of gaining the vote versus the long-term impact which such reservation for locals can actually have, because it can further increase the issue of regionalism by creating what? By fueling the son of soil syndrome, where it can just create the feeling of us versus them, and these kind of issues can start emerging. Also, it stands as violative to our constitutional provisions such as right to equality under Article 14, because now the state itself is discriminating among its people on the basis of what? On the basis of place of birth and residence. The second is Article 19, because under Article 19 what you get? Under Article 19 you get the freedom of movement, the freedom of residence. But what you will do with these rights if you cannot just go at one particular state and get a job there freely without any discrimination? The second is that is it not violating the right to freedom of trade and commerce of the companies, because the state is trying to intervene in the policy or the functioning of the private companies. The second is that such power is actually beyond the power of state, because as per the constitutional article 16 clause 3, only parliament can prescribe residence as one of the qualification and not state governments. So obviously such bills will be challenged in the court for sure. The next argument is that it actually violates the Indra Sahni judgment, which actually provide a kind of a ceiling of 50% on the reservation. The next is that it will obviously have the negative impact on business and economy, because let's say I am saying that till now I was just hiring the talent pool from wherever it was available, but now the government is pressurizing me. So obviously I will just shift my business and move somewhere else. That can lead to the exodus of business, and that will ultimately hinders what? The capital investment. So that can aggravate what? Further aggravate the unemployment issue. Also, it can create the revival of Inspector Raj, as it was highlighted by the Haryana High Court's ruling back in 2023, which was dealing with the same kind of reservation which was provided by the Haryana government, where it said that now a state is actually trying to intervene and control the policies of the free market economy. And that used to exist before the liberalization period of 1991. And ultimately, it will bring down the whole idea of meritocracy. Because imagine that if you already know that you are going to get job by default, then why you will actually strive hard or work hard for skill accumulation? You will not. So obviously the whole idea of meritocracy will come down. The skill accumulation in the local population can come down as well. So what can be the ideal way forward? The first is to apply the triple test formula which was designed by Supreme Court in K. Krishnamurthy case, where it said that any such reservation first of all has to be on the basis of data. Such total reservation cannot exceed 50%, and we need to specify the proportion of reservation in each local body. So that shall be applied to each and every reservation also in the private sector. Second is that we need to go for vocal for local, but in other sense. Try to improve the local education infrastructure, health infrastructure, skilling infrastructure. Create your locals much ready for the jobs so that they can just compete anywhere in the world, as our Indian institutes of technologies are doing. Our children are just going and they are competing with the people in US. Then we can just promote the labor intensive industries, specifically your MSMEs, and we can just follow the pro market policies to further enhance the ease of doing business for these industries, so the more jobs can be created from the platform of industries and not through the platform of government. Then obviously we need to understand that there shall be a level playing field which shall be provided to each and every citizen of India, because at the end of the day, we are not Kannadiga, we are not Tamilian, we are not Bihari. At the end of the day, we are basically Indians. And thus, the feeling of brotherhood shall be promoted, which is the idea of your fundamental duty under Article 51A as well. On the basis of this discussion, try to solve this particular question. We move forward to the next discussion. The article in Hindu highlights the benefits of electroencephalography or EEG, as well the emerging issues which are associated with the concept of neuroethics, which forms an important component of your GS4 paper under the larger theme of ethical issues related to the emerging technologies. Let's first try to start with our discussion with understanding what is this electroencephalography. The electro here actually stands for the electrical charges, such as for example electron. The encephalo actually stands for your brain, and graphy stands for what is actually going inside your brain. So try to understand that how this EEG works. So in our mind, we have got certain neurons, and neurons, this actually plays a very important role in all the things which we are doing right now. So for example, if I'm speaking right now at a certain speed, that is also being governed by these neurons in the brain. And these neurons perform this function by doing what? By doing or by moving the electrically charged particles called as ions from one place to another. Now through this EEG test, we can do actually what? We can put certain electrical chips here, and by that it can provide us a sensory input through this headset system, and a health worker can process that information, extract and interpret and generate a kind of a feedback. So we can actually visualize that what is going inside our mind in the forms of electric signals. That is the concept of EEG. And what are the potential uses of it? So obviously it can lead to the monitoring of various health indicators. For example, how my brain is functioning right now. Have I got adequate sleep or not? What is the amount or availability of oxygen to the brain? It can lead to the diagnosis of epilepsy or your neurological activity during the coma. It can observe your sleeping pattern and try to understand that whether you are suffering from anxiety or any kind of depression or not. And it can also reveal the effect of anesthesia. So it has various such offers or potential benefits, and it can also provide for various kind of personalized suggestions. However, there are various ethical issues which are involved with this emerging concept of neuroethics. So let's try to understand that. Let's say that you have got this neurochips, and we have reached to that level of technology where your manager can actually trace or can just understand that what is going inside your brain. So your manager, to whom you are an employee, your manager is just monitoring each and every task which you are performing. The manager can monitor that what is your performance level. Are you feeling fatigue? Are you feeling disinterested in the work? So just imagine the level of surveillance this technology can create. And because the manager is monitoring all of that, the manager can actually transform this data and share this data with other people, or let's say with other companies, and it can actually lead to the compromise of your individual autonomy. Such high level of surveillance system, ultimately leading to what? Leading to the violation of right to privacy, which has been held a fundamental right as part of Article 21 under the K.S. Putta Swamy judgment by the Supreme Court. Thus, this was a very easy question which was asked in your Prelims 2024 paper. Then it can lead to what? So just imagine the commercial value of such psychological data. So these companies, they can actually now can just predict that which kind of product is actually generating a good amount of electrical signals in your brain, which products you actually like, which products you are not liking, which is the advertisement on which you are spending much more time. Just imagine the commercial value such data has. And thus with this, they can actually start monitoring your choices and over a period of time regulating it, thus creating what? An echo chamber around you. And that can completely curb your right to think freely as well as your mental privacy. At the same time, such technology can just break the natural law by predicting the future just by your behavior analysis. This was exactly the thing which was depicted in a very famous movie called as Minority Report. What it said or what it depicted. So in Minority Report, what happens that the federal agency, it is started using this concept of neuroscience. In the movie, it is called as precox, by which the federal agency can actually predict just by your analysis of the electrical signals that which person is going to commit a crime. And that person is caught before committing the crime itself and is put under the coma. So just imagine that how the whole natural law can be broken and such ethical issues can have so many impact on various dimensions. Thus, there is need to safeguard these neuroethics. And the idea of neuroethics is to maximize the health benefit of this neuroscience or Neuralink for humans while minimizing its ethical harms. So in that regard, several steps has been taken. For example, Human Brain Project of European Union, the 9 principles of Organization for Economic Development. What it has done, it has given 9 principles here which you guys can see on the screen, such as promoting responsible innovation, safety assessment, inclusivity, scientific collaborations between various countries, societal deliberations, as well as safeguarding the personal brain data, promoting the culture of stewardship and trust across the public and private sector, and ultimately monitoring the potential unintended use or misuse of such technology. Then recently China, after a very long time, it has done something right, and thus in the year of 2021 it became the first country in the world to legally recognize the neuro rights of its citizens. Also, UNESCO in this regard is trying to frame the first global framework on ethics of neurotechnology, which might be adopted by the year of 2025. The article today also suggests several innovative steps which shall be taken. For example, we can create a national level legal framework, which we can borrow some good practices from China or from UNESCO. And we need to actually amend the Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1948 by United Nations to actually include this neuro rights, which is an emerging concept, in the larger human rights as well. On the basis of this, try to solve this particular question. It is a very interesting and has high possibility to come in the mains examination. We move forward to the next news. The National Company Law Tribunal has started insolvency proceedings for EdTech firm Byju's after the BCCI complained about the failure to recover only $19 million. This Insolvency and NCLT forms an important component of your GS2 paper under the larger theme of government policies and interventions. Before that, first we just try to understand what is this term insolvency and how is it different from the term of bankruptcy. So let's say I come to you, you are a bank now. I come to you and I have taken a loan from you. Now, from the last 90 days, I have been unable to pay you interest on the loan I have taken or the principal amount. So basically at this particular stage, I have become what? A non-performing asset or a person who has become insolvent. But what if I just come to you and I say that I am completely unable to pay any loan or any interest from now because I don't have got any money in my pocket, then I will be declared as a bankrupt person. So earlier when I have taken the loan from the bank, I was an asset. But now after being bankrupt, I have become a liability for the bank, and thus the bank will start the debt restructuring process for which the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code of 2016 was designed. And this IBC is actually available to both individual and companies, the companies which are defined under the Companies Act of 2013. And this is actually regulated by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Earlier, to start such insolvency process, the minimum amount was 1 lakh rupees, but now it has increased to a minimum amount of 1 crore. So under this process, both a company and individual can approach to the National Company Law Tribunal, and this National Company Law Tribunal actually act as the adjudicating authority. So it has got the right to either approve this request or disapprove it, and it shall do both of this within the 14 days time period or 2 weeks. Now let's say that NCLT says that okay, I'm going to start this insolvency and bankruptcy process. I'm going to start this debt restructuring process. Then a creditor committee will be created. This creditor committee consists of 2 kinds of creditors, financial and operational creditors. To understand the difference between these two, just try to understand that I just opened a airline company called as TO. Now this airline company, to start and run the business, I took certain loans from you, and now I just hired certain staff, let's say pilots, air hostesses, etc. Now because I have become bankrupt, I cannot give the payment to this staff which I had hired. They are what? They are operational creditors. I took loan from which company, which bank? That was you. So you are what? A financial creditor. Under the waterfall mechanism in this insolvency and bankruptcy code, the priority is given to whom? To a financial creditor. Then when this issue of insolvency is actually proceeded, then there will come an insolvency professional. Insolvency professional is basically a person who is registered under the insolvency professional agencies and who has got knowledge to deal with such financial issues and provide for certain haircuts or certain recourses through which the amount can be recovered. Now this person will require certain legal information. This insolvency professional will get that legal information from this information utility. Now remember that this insolvency professional agencies, this insolvency professional and this information utility, all of them are governed by the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. Now this insolvency professional will create a creditors committee including your both financial and operational creditors. Now if 66% of the people say that yes, I agree to this particular structure which they have done for the debt restructuring, and through this process, let's say after 10 to 20 years we'll get our dues back, 66% of the people say yes, they agree, then the debt restructuring process will take place. But even if 33% of people or more than that says that no, we do not agree to that, then the only recourse is the liquidation of assets or certain haircuts can be applied. Haircuts is basically, let's say I took 100 crore from you. Now I have become bankrupt. Let's say I have asset of only 60 crore rupees. So you will take a haircut. You will say, okay, we are going to sell this 60 crore and at least recover that amount. Now the NCLT or National Company Law Tribunal is the quasi-judicial authority which has been created to adjudicate on all of this issue, and it is formed under the Companies Act of 2013 where it deals with the corporate disputes of civil nature. All the disputes which falls under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code of 2016, and remember that it is not bounded by the Code of Civil Procedure, rather it functions on the principle of natural justice. Thus it provides the NCLT the power to scrutinize its own orders. So keep this important information in the mind and we move forward to the next news, where the article highlights the salient aspects of the National Quantum Mission which has been in the news, and it provides for comparative analysis with the other countries which we are going to look to. And this forms an important component of your prelims paper under the larger theme of science and technology. But remember that you can use this data in your mains answers as well. Now, first let's try to understand what is quantum computing. So look here, this is a classic computer. The classic computer works or functions on 2 bits, that is 0 and 1. On the other hand, these quantum computers, they work on quantum bits which can be 1 and 0 at the same time, thus called as the principle of superposition. So basically they functions on the behavior of subatomic particles where the particles actually functions like a vase. And because of this, it can be actually at a position of 0 and 1, which can actually provide for much faster computing process than the previous computers which we were using. The second important feature is the quantum entanglement. So if you guys might have seen this, not a good movie, but let's say the famous movie Judwa. So in Judwa, you might have seen one scene where, let's say there was a railway track. There was this one particular child and his Judwa was in the hospital and a train was approaching. Now this Judwa or the person who was in the hospital, it turned in the hospital and this particular child turned on the railway track as well. That is exactly the quantum entanglement, where 2 quantum qubits are entangled with each other or so aligned with each other that if you will make any change in this qubit, the change in this qubit will happen as well. So for example, just imagine creating a kind of a security infrastructure where a certain change has been made in your bank account in other country itself, but just when that change will occur, a notification will occur in your mobile that someone is tampering with your bank account. So these are various potential applications which we can have if you are using quantum technology. And to propagate that, the government came up with National Quantum Mission in the year of 2023, which is the mission mode scheme to be completed by the year of 2031. And it is being implemented by the Ministry of Science and Technology under the Department of Science and Technology. And by launching this mission, India became the 7th country in the world which has dedicated framework to deal with quantum computing technology. Now, under this mission, we are going to create 50 to 100 qubit computers in 5 years and 100 to 300 qubits computers in up to 8 years. Where we'll be using 50 to 1000 physical qubits in the next 8 years. We are also going to create satellite-based super quantum communication between the ground section over a range of 2000 kilometers, as well as we will be creating intercity quantum key distribution over 2000 kilometers. These all will be implemented under the kind of funding which the government is providing, that is up to 6,000 crore, and it will actually enhance our communication, navigation and security infrastructure of our country. However, the report suggests that there are certain issues. The first of which lies with the funding. So yes, 6,000 crore might seems quite a lot of money, but that is only $0.75 billion of investment. However, look at the investment made by China, that is $15 billion, or United States, that is 3.75. Also, the number of papers or the research which our countrymen are doing on this quantum technology, that is really less in comparison to China and USA. That is also reflected in the number of patent gain and even though we have large number of graduating students. So there are a lot of issues which exist with our quantum computing mission, and that is why the article suggests to identify and promote the young talents such as these graduating students and raise a separate cadre of quantum scientists. So remember these important details about quantum computing. Remember these two important scientific concepts of quantum superposition and quantum entanglement, and we move forward to the next section of the news, where we are going to cover some important news which can help you to eliminate some statements in your prelims examination. The first of which is actually about the World Economic Outlook, which has been released by the International Monetary Fund. Remember that this World Economic Outlook is released 2 times a year by the IMF. Now, as per the recent report which IMF has released, the Indian economy is going to grow 7% in the year of 2024 and 2025, but it has reduced down our growth in the year of 2025 to 2026, where it has projected that we will have a growth of around 6.5%. However, still, as you can see from the graph, India is one of the largest or fastest growing economy in the world. Also remember that beside this World Economic Outlook, another important report which is released by the IMF, that is Global Financial Stability Report. The next is about India's e-commerce export sector. So first look at the graph here which has been released by the SME Futures, according to which you can see that how India's export is increasing specifically in the recent years. And that is also actually accompanied by the rise in the e-commerce global manufacturing value. So for example, it was around 22 billion in the fiscal year of 19, but that has increased to $60 billion by the year of 2023 itself. And as per the report conducted by GTRI, India's e-commerce export has the potential to reach $350 billion by 2030. So just keep in your mind these important data which can become a statement in your prelims examination. The next is about a deep space network. What is deep space network? Remember that it is the largest and one of the world's biggest scientific telecommunication network, which has been devised by NASA. For what purpose? To actually communicate with its interplanetary mission. So for example, you guys remember that NASA is actually going to launch a moon mission called as Artemis, which has been discussed in the Analyst. So to communicate with that, the NASA will be using what? The deep space network. And this deep space network is actually 3 important radio antennas like this, which has been placed at equidistant of 120 degrees from each other. One is at Goldstone, California, another is at Madrid, Spain, and then another is at Canberra, Australia. So remember this deep space network of NASA, and we move forward to the next news where we are going to talk about the last universal common ancestor. So obviously one of the most interesting findings on which us humans has embarked upon, that is to find that how does the life originated. One answer to that can be the last universal common ancestor, or LUCA, which is considered as the single cell organism which consisted of bacteria, archaea and eukarya. But remember that this LUCA has no fossil evidence. We are predicting the existence of LUCA through molecular clock, by which we are predicting that it could have existed 4.2 billion years ago, which is just 300 millions after the formation of Earth. However, such finding is still in a very formative phase and we cannot say something on very substantial basis. But with this, we have reached to the end of our discussion today. Do not forget to attend the questions at the end of the video and test your knowledge. We will meet in a very interesting discussion very soon. Till then, all the very best for your preparation and thank you.